As I mentioned, quantitative approach is sort of more scientific than qualitative, but the question is which of them to apply in which moment. I will not finish this discussion today. I will speak on it also during my next lecture, but let's start working on it and getting the very first ideas. In the beginning, we have to understand that in research we distinguish between three concepts which are in common life rather mixed up, and people may be confused, but let's try to use exact terminology in your dissertation. You have to be aware of differences. So when we speak about data, information and knowledge, we use in principle three different fields of objects. First, when we speak about data, we mean sheer facts, like number 3, or value high risk, or something like that. So those are data, and they are observable, and possibly even measurable, like color, age, temperature, education. Naturally, for example, color is much better to say by its wavelength rather than, say, gray or yellow. So we try to make these measurements as exact as possible. So, but those are still numbers without any meaning. When we have some interest, so you have, look, on the internet there are temperatures in any country and any place around the planet, including, say, Kenya. But for you, this number, this data, have no value unless you will go for a trip to Kenya or to work for work to Kenya. So information, then you will become interested in this, and you will learn, okay, this is the temperature because I would like to use it. So this is something, you collect data in your research, and you collect only those data which have information value for you. This is very important. And based on those data which have your information value for you personally, you try to build your knowledge. So those are three stages, and finally it is ability, knowledge is your ability to change data into information. So something which will, so you will, those measurements will simply be measurements, and they may remain just measurements. What you have to do, if you have knowledge, you will find their meaning. This is the one step. And in research, you also try to find causality. If I will change this value, what will happen with this one, with this independent variable? What will happen with my dependent variable? So this is your issue. And the next picture, this one, will show us what in fact happens in general. Again, take it with certain reservations, but in principle it works like this. We have data, and we do certain qualitative analysis because we have small samples only. Please always start with small samples. Don't go to very big because you will waste your efforts. So start with small samples, and using qualitative analysis, you can get a hypothesis. So you can say, okay, this data could mean this causality. There should be this relationship. Then, once you have hypothesis, you can verify it. Now, you will go to much larger amounts of data, and using those much larger amounts of data, you will get a new piece of knowledge. Still, like here, hypothesis, this is still sort of hypothesis, despite that it's much more reliable than before, because you derive it from big samples. So what you have to do is to take this new piece of knowledge and try to interpret it, which means explain what you understand by them and how those data can be used, and if necessary verify it again. And you will get, when you do it, you will get a new model of reality, because your new piece of knowledge can be exploited in real life. For example, if it is something about marketing, about a new method of marketing, how customers react to certain situation, naturally you can use this in real world. Let's go to detail. Let's go from data to hypothesis. What is relevant in this moment? First, to select a sample, which must be appropriate sample, relevant sample. Include individuals who correspond to your desire, to your analysis, because you have a certain intention. And you have to select people who work in this. Naturally, as many as possible, but still those numbers can be very small. Small means 30, 50, something like that, sometimes even less. Again, discuss with your advisor what is the reasonable number. Exclude inappropriate or irrelevant. There is such a concept which is called Occam's razor, and it says, analyze what you have, and from all data and all hypotheses, this which is the simplest one is the right one. It's sort of hypothesis, but it's been proved many times in our life that this works like that. At least, even if it does not work properly, you will have something simple to verify, and it's then much easier to find your solution. And what is in common between with these cases? First, what is the characteristic? So, if you select a sample, what is common for this sample? For example, when we are studying certain industry, we can speak about startups, or electrical industry, or business in shops, real agents, and stuff like that. So first, you have to say this. Then you will have to find certain, maybe weak, still weak, statistical relevance between cause and consequence. And this small and not valid yet relevance will set up your hypothesis. So, and what is very important, because you have to prove or disprove your hypothesis, the statement must be sort of question which can be answered yes or no. When you do something like this, so when you do this qualitative analysis here with these small samples, you have to try to first elicit feelings, beliefs, experience, and so on and so on. Try to neutral form. Try to be as neutral as possible. It's fine to have, for example, questions prepared in advance, so your discussion will not deviate when you speak to those people. And you can use either interview or questionnaire. Interview is done person to person. It's unstructured, semi-structured, or structured, which means this is absolutely free speech. This is the speech which is done with pre-formulated questions. And finally, those are questions which are strict and you will not deviate from them. Here, you can deviate from those questions if you find a certain interesting point. Naturally, the problem is that it's time-consuming and rather subjective. Yeah, because it depends on your, say, relationship to this person. On the other hand, questionnaires or surveys are pre-planned sets of questions, and the answers are usually very simple, consisting just of a set of responses from fully agree to fully disagree, and they are very economic and uniform, so every person is asked the same questions with the same answers. And the problem is here that I will speak about errors in research in the future, but I will already point to the fact that either you may not properly select the group, so you may address people which are not appropriate to or not capable of answering, and it can also be biased, because some people will simply say, I agree, because they are afraid. We can see this on, say, election polls. Results of election polls are not very reliable because people often hide their preferences. Again, there is a table which shows you advantages and disadvantages of interviews and questionnaires, and when to use them. For example, if you have time pressure prior to the act, use interview or don't go further. Yeah? Simply stop at this moment. And if you don't have time for post-analysis, use questionnaire, because then a computer can calculate it for you. So there are some. Think about this. If you have questions, don't worry. We have discussion forum you can ask in it. In your dissertation, you will have to describe your verification method very straight. You have to say what was its input, how you did it, and what was the output. Simply because your results must be replicable, which means any person who will start with same or similar input, use the same procedure, should get the same or very similar output. And then, because you have proved everything and the result is final, you have to prove that this new piece of knowledge is useful. In a dissertation, it means that you will say what of your results is applicable to business practice. Still, we are speaking about business administration, so what you have found is a new piece of knowledge only when it can be practically used. So there is a series of questions you will have to ask yourself. And I will finish with something which says, what's the power of interpretation? Look, there are three problems which look formally very, very same. The weight of horse is 700 kilograms. What is the weight of 20 horses? The speed of horse is 20 kilometers of hours. What is speed of 20 horses? And finally, oh, sorry, I forgot that, and again I will fix it. The color of a horse is white. What is the color of 20 horses? Yeah? And when you use different interpretations, and you have to use, you will get different results. Thank you.